And it wasn't until I came out and I was like, wait, what is this femme thing? Like, I didn't know about it. Even when I first came out, I was like, well, I guess you're either a lesbian or you're not. And then like moving to LA and like meeting all these people and like starting to understand like, oh, there's this other thing. What is this other thing, femme? This is like, we're all in costume.
Yeah.
All the time. Like our femme costume. I'm going to the grocery store and I can wear a leopard. I can just wear that and nobody's going to go like, she's a lot. Why did you bring her? They're going to be like, where'd you get your shoes?
Hello and welcome to Fuck Yeah, the podcast where we say fuck yeah to queer style. I am Sarah, one of your hosts, and I am joined by Robin, who's looking pretty cozy.
Oh, good. Okay. Good.
Were you bracing?
I mean, I was crying a little bit on the way here. So I'm glad that cozy is the vibe I'm giving off.
Happy tears?
No, I'm going through some things, and I've been listening to a lot of 80s music to like have something to sing along to, because I do think singing is a big part of me, like moving through the emotions. And so Purple Rain came on.
Oh,
you know, I could have skipped it. It wasn't the radio or anything, but I was like up the two, like Purple Rain gets me. It's like over the top, and I was like, I'm going to keep it together for this podcast. And then I was like, wow. But now I feel much better. It is like being in community, being with, people and being able to talk and process is so important.
I'm always very curious about people's reactions to crying because I find crying to be so nice. Like when I need to cry, letting it out feels really good.
Yes.
But I know I live with a person who is like really does not like to cry. And I'm so curious about that because I'm like, but why? It's like this big valve opens up, you let it out, and then you're like, oh, okay, now I can actually start to approach this thing that I have big feels about.
Yeah. Yes. I think I do enjoy a good cry, but I do have a thing also of like, I think it's my complexion or something. Like my face can change so many different colors depending on my mood. And so it's always like very dramatic. Like I feel like I look like that crying filter. I'm just like, so, but I'm feeling a little bit slap happy now. So I think it's good. I'm glad to be with you guys. Speaking of, we have Sparrow Fox here today.
Yes, we do.
Hi.
Sparrow is a dear friend of ours and the one responsible for my hairs on my head. Sparrow Fox is a hairstylist specializing in color specifically for all you blondies out there. Look her up. She is in Glendale and also an educator for Amika hair, not supplies. What would you call them?
They're all styling products. Yeah.
Styling products.
Stylers, tools.
Yes.
Tools and products. Yeah.
Which are also in my house right now. I love them. And an associate licensed therapist.
I am.
Hey.
Yeah, I am.
You're doing all the things.
So I'm doing most of the things right now.
But it's like on the head, in the head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My partner jokes that I should change the name of my studio to the crying room.
Oh, see, I had
Because
a
there's
new place
so
to go.
much processing that goes in there. It has nothing to do with hair. So,
Yeah. I have a lot of questions for you about that.
Great.
But before we dive into it, what is giving you a fuck yeah right now?
I have a kitten.
Ooh.
She's so dear. And
Yes.
you guys know I lost my dog last year. So it's my first like venture back into being a pet mama again. And it's just filling my cup. I'm so excited to go home. I love hearing the little bell every time I open the door. And I like having something to take care of that's not me. So my fuck yeah is definitely my kitten and being a new educator for Amika. I've only been doing it for a couple it's almost October.
Ooh, yes, yes.
So spooky season. For me, spooky season is October to January 1st.
Oh,
Yeah.
You have a spooky, like,
I love
winter holiday?
I love spooky Christmas, like sad drag cabaret for Christmas,
Yes.
showgirls, Christmas showgirls, dive bars that do Christmas decorations, you know, like ghost stories, the Christmas ghost stories. I love all that. I love all the spooky, creepy.
And like the spaces that contain the people that during the holidays feel really low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a real affinity for the downtrodden.
Right?
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
When
Yeah.
we were
or the
doing
lonely. Yeah.
when we were doing Shotgun at the Eagle, because it was a Wednesday night
Yeah.
event, and the Wednesday night before Thanksgiving was just always my favorite because it's people who, for the most part, haven't gone home to see their family because
Yeah.
a lot of people who live in LA are not from LA.
Yep.
And then it was so cathartic to be with queer people right around this holiday that is very associated and attached to family and just dance, listen to loud music and kind of let it all out.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Also, it's like the season of the sequin. Like, I just love a sparkle.
Oh, yes.
And it's just like,
So
say
much.
more.
like tiny lights are everywhere.
The lights.
There's so much glitter and sequins everywhere. Like, people aren't so mad about glitter because they're not as sweaty, I guess. But, you know, it's just everything's sparkly, but also nighttime and rain. And, you know,
Yeah.
I like
Yeah,
it.
for folks who are listening and not on our Patreon and so not watching the video, let me just set the scene here that Sparrow is a gorgeous high femme with lots of sparkly things on right now. All the gold, the rose gold hair.
I heard Chani Nicholas this last week say that one of her goals as she ages was to be an aging woman who wears too much jewelry.
Yes.
And I like my deep, like, hard body yes to that whole sentiment. It's like, oh, I feel like I've been waiting my whole life to be like a slightly eccentric, middle-aged, overly jewelried, overly eyelashed sort of lady.
Yeah.
And it's just too bad that smoking is out, because otherwise I'd still be smoking Capris too.
Right? No. Iris Apfel, like, vibes.
Yes.
Like, I just want to get the
weirder
glasses
glasses.
get bigger.
Yeah.
The jewelry gets bigger. The colors are brighter. Yes, I'm with you
Yeah.
on that 100%.
Yeah.
I was pulling things together this morning to take Ruby and our really sweet new pup to the playground. And I was going into my cozies drawer and realizing I'm in this drawer way too much at this stage of my life. And like, what happened to that person who like had to be perfectly kind of like
So here's the
coiffed?
hack. No, here's the hack. You wear the cozies, but put your big jewelry on and put your face on and fix your hair and hose yourself down with perfume.
Cozy core.
And then you're dressed, but you're in your cozies.
All about the accessories and the
Yeah.
shoes that you're
Yes.
wearing. I'm like, I
Absolutely.
can wear sweatpants if I'm wearing them with boots.
Yeah. So I had to go to my nail appointment this morning before I came here, and I did wear these sweatpants, but I wore platforms with them. And I had my Trixie Mattel t-shirt on. So
Okay, you know, we may need to have a little femme date where you come over and we like style some of my cozies, because this is just not. I have not tapped into
No,
this.
I
gotta-
think you
gotta
have
let it
all the
dress
things
up.
you need.
You do.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. All right.
Because I know you know how to dress up.
Yes.
So I know you have the items. It's just
Yeah.
you got to put the sparkly items with your soft clothes.
I also think I need chunkier
Yeah.
accessories.
So you have like, it can't be a skinny hoop.
Yeah.
It's got to look like you bought it at the mall in 1985.
Yeah.
Flares.
Yeah. It's got to be a statement. You have to have the glasses with like the big gold rims or something, you know,
Yes.
something to like dress up the soft clothes.
Yeah. This has got to be
Yeah.
my new era. Like some of this accessorizing has to
Especially
come
like
back in.
late 40s, we're working. I mean, I'm on my feet all day at work. I don't always want to wear hard clothes, hard pants.
Right. I feel
This
like we
is
need
like
to
a
hit hard pants for
Hard
real.
pants all day.
No, non-stretch. No, thank you. Something with a waist. No.
When I'm like bending and like also standing in place foiling so long sometimes that my watch reminds me I need to stand up.
Oh, that's weird.
That feels weird.
Oh, I get so mad at my watch when it tells me something that I feel like is unfair. I'm like, no. Like I
How
have
dare
a
you.
treadmill
I'm a Virgo.
desk.
How do you think I feel? You don't tell me what to do. I am standing up.
No,
Demand
exactly.
avoidance.
It like super taps into that because I'll also I have a treadmill desk.
Yes.
Which I've like gotten more back in fitness now that I like my frozen shoulder has mostly healed and I can do some things. So like I'll go on my big morning hike and then I come and like do sprints on the treadmill and it feels really good. Like I'm just like, oh, I'm back in it. I love it. But my watch records the amount of sprinting I do differently than my treadmill does. My treadmill tells me I'm going way further and faster, and my watch is like, no, girl, I'm sorry, you are not. And I'm like, I hate you. It must be that I don't.
Because when we do use our watch,
Yeah.
it's this motion that tells our watch. Because I'll just be like walking to Home Goods if I have a break between clients, and it'll be like, "Are you on an outdoor walk?" Like, as a matter of fact, I am.
Why not?
But I think it's because my arm is swinging, which normally it's not. So I think though, put your phone on you. See what happens if you put your phone like in your pocket or something. I bet it'll record it more accurately.
Yeah. I mean, people ask me all the time, do you love your watch? And I'm like, I do.
It's love-hate though.
But are you the person that wants to track these things?
How about it telling you that your heart rate's elevated all the time because you're just like stressed out?
Whoa.
Yeah.
That sounds like too much reality.
It's a lot of checking in.
Although I will say, I saw a new primary care physician and she was like, hey, can I look at your watch? Because, I've talked about this on the podcast. I've had a fair amount of weight gain. Like, I think it's finally stabilized, but it was 12 or 13 pounds that I gained in like 9 months. And it just was really hard on my body and also just my mind. And so I was telling her, I'm like, no, but I'm telling you, like, I exercise 6 days a week.
Yeah.
And a variety of different things. And she's like,
always been active.
Let me check your watch. Like, she wasn't like checking my work, but she was like, let me just see what's happening. And she was like, oh, good God, your heart rate recovery is exceptional. You are not kidding that you work out because there's no way to. And I was like, oh, my watch is doing good in the world. It's not just like serving this like weird calculator in my head that's like judging if I'm like doing it,
feeding your stats
quote
to
unquote,
the machine.
right. Yeah.
And I can prove it.
So I was like, oh, that's nice. Okay. Sparrow, I feel like you are on this path that I would imagine is fairly common for people in your industry, which is you're in a very intimate, but also service oriented role, and you're like holding space for all the feels that people have about their hair.
Not just about their hair.
Identity.
Well, yes.
Beyond, yeah.
So like what do you, from your perspective, what does hair hold for people?
Time of life, color, am I going gray? What phase of life am I in? It's a marker of different times of age in people's life. Like, I had cool hair when I was young. I want to have cool hair again. I just have mom hair. I get that a lot lately.
Yeah.
I am getting older. My clients are aging with me for the most part. I don't have a lot of people in their 20s anymore. So it's a lot of beginning to go gray, and I just don't want to be just like a regular mom. I want to be a cool mom.
Word.
Or I used to be a boss bitch, and now I look like a mom bob, like that kind of vibes.
Yeah.
And then I think depending on other types of identity, that follows too. People do want to feel unique, interesting. I have a lot of creative people. They want their hair to reflect that. So I think mostly, I would say, surface-wise, that.
Yeah. That is
There's a
interesting.
lot deeper.
Well, and hair is such one of the key gender markers.
Well, yeah.
As well.
I mean, especially when I have a lot of the betwixt folks. I don't have, it's like, I don't have like a cadre of butches that have barber haircuts because I don't do barbering. But I have a lot of the little, my younger people tend to be the really cute sort of like Forrest Feral little queer people with tendrily mullets and, you know, those kind of really interesting asymmetrical kind of haircuts. That category of young person still sits in the chair. And then I have a lot of young femmes that want like cool 90s hair, which has been really interesting to like cut these bobs with the deep flip and really long. They want their natural wave and curl, but like just balayage the tips just a little bit. So it's like really subtle. And
What is balayage? What?
Balayage is like softly lightening the hair, just like letting it open process, painting it with a bleach then letting it open process so that it looks like you've been outside. It doesn't give you the bright blonde.
Right.
It just gives you like the process that your hair would naturally go through if it was lightening up in the sun.
But different from highlights.
I mean, technically it is it's a way of highlighting the hair.
Yeah.
But it gives a much softer, it's not like you look at it and go like, oh, that she's bleaching her hair. You're like,
Right.
Oh, where'd she go camping this summer?
It's not like the 2002 like streaks.
No, it is not the skunk hair of the early aughts. It is not that.
Those are the days.
It's not my black clip-ins with my bleached hair. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny as you mentioned like aging and particularly the like, I don't want to have mom hair. Like I hard relate to that. I feel like something transitioned for me from being a young queer person to being a parent where suddenly like because certainly when I was a younger person, having my queer identity come through my hair mattered a lot to me.
Yeah.
And now it's a little bit more like, I just don't want to look like a dowdy mom. Like there's no way I'm going to keep up the super cool hair of my like 20s and early 30s. Yeah. But like just don't make me look like a dowdy mom who doesn't care at all.
Yeah.
And I wonder, like, do you think that there's sort of a different significance in terms of how queer people express themselves? I mean, I know like actually how we look is different.
Yeah.
But do you think that there's not really a difference necessarily in how queer people approach their hair versus like, you know, the normies? Or do you think that hair has a special significance to queers?
Well, with my clientele, I think one of the things I notice is queer people tend to have more ease with the aging process in general. There's more like, there's probably been more therapy around the aging process. To be honest, most of the queer people I know, everybody that sits in my chair has a therapist. It's very rare that I work with somebody that has never been in therapy.
Right.
So I think there's work going on outside of my studio that has nothing to do with me in particular, but that people come in going like, I understand this is what's happening. What can I do? And also not have to be in here every 5 minutes. There's more ease with queer people. With cishet comp or, you know, like that, like crew. I don't know how we want to talk about it in here, but I find it's still very like, cover the grays till I die, which is really my stance. My personal comfort zone is like, I don't ever want to see them. I don't want to know them. The minute they start being like super visible, it's over. Like I will cover every hair on my head. Right now I'm lucky I can still just foil it. I have a few little grays in the front that they're really kind of tucked in. But yeah, I don't know. I think it really depends on the type of hair too.
Right.
Someone's doing like really creative color, they have to be in there all the time anyway, because to upkeep something like that is a lot. So they don't have to develop a relationship with their grays. What I am noticing is people transitioning out of high maintenance color because their grays have gotten so bad that it's like the fire line. So like they want to like, they're having an emotional reaction to the fire line. They're like
the fire line.
Yeah,
wow.
Because it starts growing and it's like, it's no longer pepper and salt.
Right.
It's like a lot of salt and some pepper. And so you really, really notice it. And I think that's probably getting harder. So I think, and that has nothing to do with being queer or straight. I think that in general, making that transition out of like high maintenance color into something that's a little softer and more accepting is just hard for everybody.
It does seem like there's a big move, like culturally, of femme presenting people being more into showing the gray and like
thanks,
going gray
pandemic.
and stuff. Or are you seeing that with your clients, or it's?
I think the pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean, the lockdown portion of the pandemic, like people having to go so long in between hair appointments and not being able to feel as frenetic about covering the grays and like having to, I mean, most of my clients, it was at least 6 months before they could get their color done, which gives you a pretty good amount of regrowth. And they had to really like see what their salt and pepper pattern looked like.
Yeah.
Some of them really liked it. So I've had a handful of people that did not come back to doing color at all. They pop in for a haircut once or twice a year, but
Yeah.
the prairie mom vibe with the really long kind of cult hair that's not being colored and gets cut
Cult hair.
once a year
Yeah.
is happening now.
Right.
I think that mostly that's a pandemic byproduct.
Mm-hmm.
I think people got a feeling of ease with what their hair really is
Right.
because they had to live with their hair. And the human part of me is like, that's so gorgeous. I love that so much. And the hairstylist in me is like, I fucking hate this because people don't come in.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
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 So it's like, it changed the conversation. And I think too, it's sort of like building on it as we continue to stay in a really transitional time. You know, I don't think we're totally out of the pandemic. I mean, I think it's like, there's all this stuff going on and economic sidecars and all this other stuff, especially living in LA. So people continue to like put space in between their appointments. And so I think I'm learning right now what's going to be the new normal for hair color for clients, queer or straight.
Yeah. Well, as someone who specializes in color,
Yeah.
that probably hit your business really differently
Yeah.
than
It's been a weird few months.
Like, is it
Yeah.
not? It's not recovered since the pandemic.
I have never recovered.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I would say I'm busy enough, but it's noticeable. It's noticeable how the length of time in between appointments. I think it's a couple of things. I think it's like all the stuff we just talked about. And then I think also, like I said, my clients are also aging with me and priorities are shifting.
Right.
Like people are wanting to own homes. They are having families. They are moving back to where they came from. I've had so many clients leave California.
Yeah.
So I think it's a combination of the two.
Yeah. There is a big transition. I'm glad you pointed out, like, there is like a cultural transition going on. It's not, but it seems to be also like everybody on an individual layer is going through some transformative
Yeah,
kind
and I
of
think just
time.
being in LA, if you're a creative person in LA, you've been hit by what has happened to creative industry in LA. And that includes everybody that participates in creative industry in LA. We all kind of like serve and feed each other. And when one part really bottoms out, can't help but affect everybody else.
Right.
So,
Like with the writer's strike and everything. And then there's just still so much non-work happening.
so much strife.
And
Yeah.
it's like, you don't have to be in the film industry
No.
to feel it in Los Angeles, that it's a little funky right now.
yeah. And I think that's queer or straight.
Yeah.
But I feel like my clientele has been, I would say, 90% queer folks most of my career. And there's been an impact there too.
Yeah.
What do you think, or I should say for you, because I feel like there is a bit of a pipeline from this kind of work into mental health work.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, and this was true at Pleasure Chest too.
Yeah.
And anytime I've trained folks in like a sex shop environment is like, you're the front line. People do not access sex therapy and we don't have sex education. So they're coming in here on the surface to buy a toy, but in actuality, there are a host of issues either in their relationship, changes in their body, pre-orgasmia, like all sorts of different things that they're actually dealing with and needing help around. So like, let's make sure you have the tools to be able to answer basic questions and then refer out as appropriate.
Yeah.
You must provide so much mental health support in the chair. I know that that's my experience of being in the chair with you, right? Is like you go to your stylist and it's a very intimate space, especially now that you have your own studio and it's not like there's a whole bunch of people around. So it's like just the two of you.
That's what I was going to say. I think even before Like when I was when I was in the salon, I remember moments where it's like a client would just start crying, and I'd be like, oh my God, there's no place to bring this person so they can have privacy. And we're sitting there and there's people everywhere. You remember what folklore was like, right? So it's always crowded. So to then have to like get this person and take them into that little bathroom in the back and be like, just take your time, but you can't really get into it. So being where I'm at now, I think especially post lockdown, because I only see one person at a time, I don't double book now unless it's a couple. Couples come in together, but that's it. Some of the appointments are really long. So people are in there for like 5 or 6 hours.
Wow.
It's impossible to not. I mean, I think more and more people are starting to work during their appointments and order food and just kind of hang out. But there's moments where people literally come in and set their things down and just start crying. Wow. And it's like, oh, okay. I mean, I book in like 20 minutes extra at the front end of every appointment at this point because I don't know what I'm going to be met with. I think everybody's so like up to their neck, up to their teeth, I don't know, with feelings about the last few years, especially queer people. Like it's been fucked since 2016. I mean, like forever, but like it's been tense and painful and scary out loud since then. And I noticed at that point, that was sort of the beginning of the big emotional shift. Yeah. And I didn't even
2016.
I didn't even move into my studio until 2018. So 2018 was my first year there. And that first year was like, I would come home at night and I would just be like, people are crying all day. Yeah. I'm like, do you like your hair though? This is totally fine with me, but just as long as I know you like your hair also, because that's what I'm here to actually do.
Do you have a certain way of being or method for holding space or for processing with people?
So one of the things that I have to do, because I do work on a schedule, is I have to get to the bones of what we're going to do with the hair first. Right. So I know what to do. So I'm like, okay, I can see something real quick here. Are we just doing what we normally do? Because most of my clients are people that I've known forever at this point. So most of the time it's like, yeah, we're just doing, okay, great. Once I know that and I know what I'm looking at time-wise, I literally just get my chair and I turn them around. I don't let them look in the mirror and I sit down in front of them and I'm like, okay, what's going on?
Yeah.
Let's break the bubble, because I can't actually stand there and do your hair if you're sobbing.
Yeah.
Like me as a human, I can't interact that way because it's like there's two different things happening. This person is coming in, they need to be held. They're not getting it somewhere else. They need to be held. And I'm the person they feel safe doing that with. So it behooves me to sit down for 10 or 15 minutes at the beginning of the appointment and just say, okay, what's going on? Tell me everything.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful, for whatever reason, I am a human who can do that. Because I don't know what I would do if I was a person who couldn't handle crying or feelings or talking about stuff or, I don't know what I would do. It would be really, I mean, it is hard sometimes. I come home at night and I'm like, I don't want to see anybody.
It's a lot of energy.
I want to take a salt bath and hug my cat. And sometimes I want to cry because people are going through so much right now. Everybody, it makes me want to tear up right now. Yeah. People are going through so much. Everybody is so scared. People are in a super heightened level of just emotion constantly because of what they subject themselves to mostly, what they choose to engage with the world. And most people don't have good boundaries or know how to unplug.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that makes me just think of the 2016 reference is interesting because there is that major shift that happens where a lot of the stuff that was under the surface is now being said out loud. Yeah. And there's policy being built around it that puts a lot of people really at risk. Yeah. But there is also simultaneously this just like massive influx of information that we have. Yeah. And our systems, it's like, I heard someone talk about it like if you thought of our brains as hardware, that we just don't come with the built-in hardware to be able to process this much information, let alone like all of the negative undertones that exist in every, like pretty much everywhere you turn.
You know, from a neurobiological perspective, like our brains actually can't process the amount of information, not just information, but imagery. The amount of imagery that we're being pushed every day, whether you're looking at nail polishes or you're looking at war photos. Like, and if it's traumatic, the brain, when you're experiencing, subjecting yourself to that all day, even though it's not happening here in Los Angeles right now in front of our faces, the brain processes that as a trauma that you're actually experiencing. So then you have that trauma, it's living in your body. That's not something that you lived, but you are feeling the residual effect of that. And then when we're doing all the fun stuff, like get the gossip on the housewives or whatever. I mean, that's our little primate dopamine addict baby brain that's just like, give me something funny, give me something to make me laugh. I want to see a kitten video. I'm tired of feeling bad. So it's like we're getting super high in both ways all the time, and nobody is ever coming down. I think today is actually supposed to be like a no internet day where people are supposed to unplug their Wi-Fi and I'm just like, I might just start doing that like once a week, just pick a day and turn my phones all the way off and unplug my Wi-Fi and just like completely see what it feels like to be in my home with no radio signal around me and no ability to dissociate out of whatever I don't want to deal with, whether it's just the discomfort of like trying to sit and read a book or look at my schedule for the next week and panic about that, you know, whatever the thing is, like just to like try to figure out how to take it down a notch.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, do you think that you were drawn to the mental health field always? Or do you think that or maybe it's a combination of both, like the work kind of put you onto this path to become a therapist?
Well, in high school, I was in peer counseling. So I did this in high school too, because I was like, the kids who are having trouble aren't going to talk to these teachers. This was in the 90s too. And so I was in the peer counseling group and I, you know, was very like, oh, maybe I'm going to be a psychologist or something. But I've always loved the beauty industry. I mean, like I was 6 when I got my first Barbie mannequin and I was like, who wants to be my client? You know, I was ready to put makeup on anybody. I think I was 14. I wasn't even like going to school dances. And I offered to do people's hair and makeup for like $30. I'll do your hair and makeup for a school dance. And I don't even remember how, I think I took the bus or maybe my mom drove me. I don't even remember, but going around to people's houses and getting them ready for dances and make my little cash.
Wow.
Entrepreneur from the start.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like I really knew that I enjoyed doing that from very early on. And I was always obsessed with beautiful women. Like Marilyn Monroe, like over the top, the most glitz, the most glamour, all the things, the nails, the hair, all of it, big shoes. My grandma was like that. She had big blonde bouffant and like pink nails, hot pink nails and rings on every finger and so much perfume and matching pants, jacket, bag, like the pink lipstick, the eyelashes. I was just like, that's the way to live. Dolly Parton. Oh my God, Dolly Parton.
Yeah. That's the way to live.
Oh.
Hardcore femme through and through.
Oh God, like caftans and heels, like the step-in, clicky little step-in heels. I was like, oh, with the belted caftan and all the big jewelry and the long nails. I was like, oh yeah, just give it to me. That's what I want to be.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love that.
That's how my grandmother was too. I mean, by the time I knew her, she wasn't as high femme as she had been. But, you know, my mom talks about going into her closet in the 60s and just all of the wigs that she had.
What I wouldn't have given to like see something like that.
Yeah. And just like the deep investment in like high femme 24/7. And by the time I knew her, it was costume jewelry. Like all the good jewelry had been put away because she had clip-ons.
Oh yeah.
But like, you know, one of those really old dressers that's like 3 drawers across and then like 3 drawers down. And it just weighs like 1,000 pounds. The top 3 drawers of the dresser were all her costume jewelry.
Oh God,
so I was able to just go in there and open it and mess around, and because
she
everything
would let
was
you?
Because it's all costume jewelry at
My
that
grandma
point.
did not let us mess in her, and she had the big jewelry boxes, the big like velvet lined giant square. I think she had 2 of them, and I knew the one that had the good jewelry in it and the one that had the fun costume jewelry. And every once in a while, I'd just like slip into her bedroom and just peer in and just like look at it and don't touch anything because you knew she would know.
Yeah.
Something was
She
out
would
of
feel
place.
it. It would be like a disruption in in the solar system if someone moved the jewelry.
My rhinestones.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. My grandmother was very similar as well. It was like nails. There was always foundation on her
Yes.
telephones.
Yeah,
You know?
lipstick on everything. That hot pink lipstick was
You
on
know
everything.
which cup is hers. And yeah, like nails out to here, stones. She would get her hair set
Yes,
once a week.
My first perm, my
Yes.
first official perm was with my grandmother. She's like, "Oh, I'll take you to my girl." It was the year that I made the cheerleading squad. I wanted a perm. She's like, "You can come with me. I'll take you to my girl."
And the salon was a cultural hub for her.
Oh.
That's where her girls were at.
Yeah.
You know, she was in a deep emotional relationship with her hairstyle people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's really interesting too, as a young woman, to observe what the relationship was like with my grandfather, like the in-home relationship and the ways she was seen and not seen.
Right.
And then going to a place like that with her and seeing her
Yes.
with the ladies and being like, oh,
It's like cheers. Like
Yeah.
everybody's like, hey,
Yeah.
you're here, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
which I was very attuned to with the men in my life, like the dive bar situation. Like I definitely got that very early, what that was for them. But going to the hair salon with my grandmother was like,
Wait, were you being taken to bars?
oh yeah.
Me too.
Oh, yeah.
I grew up in bars. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say like my parents took me. My dad sometimes, but my mom's dad was a bar owner.
Okay.
And so like as a very little girl, I would spend time at the bar. And I was so crazy about my grandpa. He was like the coolest, sweetest man. And he would like set me up at the bar and give me a Roy Rogers or a Shirley Temple and tell me I could choose a bag of chips, those little bags of chips hanging out behind the bar. And I would just sit there and these old timers would come in. It was like in a really
was
small
this?
town. So it was like,
Where?
it was called Hillsboro. It was in New Mexico.
Oh, okay.
Really, really tiny. Like I think like 5 people at the time lived there. I mean, it was really tiny. Ranches. And
I mean, New Mexico kind of specializes in tiny towns.
I know, it's true. It's very true. It's very
their
true.
thing. It's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool, but it's very unique.
It's a very unique state. That's
Yeah.
for reals. I was born there. It's a very interesting place to be in.
Just imagining high femmes, salons, and dive bars
Well,
in a teeny tiny.
And that was my other grandparents.
Town in New Mexico.
That was my dad's mom, was
Oh,
the big
okay.
hair lady. And so that was another tiny town, but like they had figured out their place. They were
Right.
like the big fish in the little pond there. And so she was kind of like the queen of wherever she went.
Yeah.
And that was a choice. She knew she wanted to stay there because she wanted to be the queen. She wanted to be the prom queen forever.
I mean, it's part of the high femme thing, a little bit, right? Of like, you are kind of regal when
Yeah.
you dress up. I mean, that's part of like why I
Absolute-
do
I
it.
mean-
I'm like, I am here, bitches.
The
You know what I mean?
suggestion of going out not done,
Right.
no ma'am. No ma'am.
What was it when like Posh Spice got pulled over? Do you remember this? It was not, she was, I don't remember what she did, but she was not,
She was not dressed.
she did not want to get out of the car. She
No.
was refusing to get out of the car because she was wearing flats.
Yeah.
And did not want to be seen in flats. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I am not that person, but I understand that
Yeah.
feeling.
I do too.
You know?
Yeah, yeah. You know, my grandfather who just passed,
Yeah.
he was incredibly put together. I mean, 98 and still, you know, getting his hair cut every 2 weeks and the shirt and the, you know, iron pants
Yeah.
and all of that. And when I saw him last, I just noticed, I'm like, gosh, it seems like it's really attached to duty for him. Like this, like there's a right way and there's a wrong way to do things.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to show up in the world looking a certain way. And I think for him, it was professionalism.
Yeah.
But there's like this quality when I think of my grandmother and her, you know, wanting to be seen. And when I kind of think of the roots of like why I dress up,
Yeah.
it is more, and I'm not saying that that's what it is for everybody,
Right.
but there's a quality of like, I want to be seen
Yeah.
and be seen for my femininity.
Absolutely.
In a society that mostly sees men for performing masculinity and doing their duty and, you know, being in charge.
Well, it's interesting too because I always thought like I had a previous life where I was married and to a man, and in that life I was very like, I'm too much. I'm gonna just wear my Old Navy t-shirt and my jean shorts and my sneakers and just be like a wife. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until I came out and I was like, wait, what is this femme thing? Like, I didn't know about it. Even when I first came out, I was like, well, I guess you're either a lesbian or you're not. And then like moving to LA and like meeting all these people and like starting to understand like, oh, there's this other thing. Mm-hmm. What is this other thing, femme? I keep like, this is like, we're all in costume.
Yeah.
All the time, like our femme costume. And I'm going to the grocery store and I can wear a leopard.
Right.
And nobody in my crew is going to be like, girl, what are you wearing?
Right.
Like, why are you doing that? Like that thing that I only experienced as a straight woman, which like this was like group shaming of women who are taking the time. I think right now we're calling it mob wife couture or whatever.
Oh, I like
this
that
kind
though.
of like vibe, which is, I always have loved a little bit of gold chain. Like I love a Jersey vibe. Like it's like the hair, all of it. I just love it so much. And so like getting to this crew of people that I was like, I can wear a body chain to a pool party.
Yes.
And these women are going to come up to me and go, you look fucking hot. They're not going to
Yes.
go like, what are you doing? How can you wear a bikini?
Right.
You're not a size 6. It was like, no, people just are like loving each other up for whatever their presentation
You'll be
looks
celebrated
like.
for it.
Yeah.
Celebrated.
It was like so cool.
Yes.
Because it was the first time I felt like I could wear a red high heel and a leopard print on a Monday afternoon if I just want to walk to the Silver Lake Reservoir with my friends and go hang out in the meadow. I can just wear that and nobody's going to go like, she's a lot. Why did you bring her? They're going to be like, where'd you get your shoes?
Those stilettos are aerating the ground right now.
Like, that's a great capri, girl.
Right?
You know, and not that I walk around in those outfits all the time. Obviously, I'm wearing my casual Sunday attire today, but like just being with women who didn't shame. And that's in the salon environment also, I want to say.
100%. Because I think when you're doing it in a comp-het way, it's about control and about meeting certain standards of femininity.
Well, and don't tempt anybody's men.
There's that because there's competition between women.
Yeah.
Or like a kind of forced competition. And there's some like power around, like how conformist can you be?
Yeah.
You know, and then you get like those photos of like, it's autumn and it's like all the boots and all the jeans and everybody's wearing like the same thing. But like when you've deconstructed gender a bit through your queerness or however you do it, then it's like, oh, all of this is performance. So I can do whatever the fuck I want.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And I just the other day, it was actually these pants I was wearing.
Which are so cute.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They're like, you know, flowy, kind of drop crotch.
I'm joking with my family. I'm like, right now my thing that I find really appealing is like this sort of like cold winter Swedish / Japanese structural. I'm not sure I have the body type for it. I end up feeling a little house tenty when I wear it, but like I love how it feels.
Yes.
It feels so good to feel free in my body and feel like I'm also dressed and people can tell that I took the time to get dressed. So I'm on board with your pants.
100%. And I wore these pants and I put them on and I was like, and I said, I had the inner critic voice that was going, you're going to the pet store.
Yeah, right?
Like, do you always have to be so much?
Yeah.
And then I was like, fuck it. I'm going to the pet store. I'm going to wear what I want.
Also, if
I
die,
got compliments.
If I die, this is my ghost outfit.
Exactly. I mean, that's an important thing to think about.
Every
what
time
do
I
you
leave
want to
the
wear
house,
for eternity?
if I die today while I'm out, this is my ghost outfit.
Yes, and
Am
I'm
I okay with
haunt you
that?
in this bitch. You know what I mean?
And
It's
also, like I hear my mom's voice. Are your undies clean? Because if the fire department has to help you, are your chonies clean? Like, so I'm always like thinking about all these things when I put myself together before I leave the house.
Yes. So, and I ended up going to the store and getting like a really genuine compliment on my pants. And I'm like, see, this is it. If I dress, nobody compliments you for conforming.
Nope.
You know, and not that I'm
another way
really
of being
fishing for
invisible.
compliments, but it's like standing out, doing something unique, doing something fun just because is not only like self-expression, but it's also shows a certain level of confidence and also inspires other people. Yeah. Like, you know, I just think it's, why not? What are we doing this for?
I love when I'm out and I see people. I'm like, better work your outfit.
You know?
I'm here for.
I've yelled
your
work at people.
Oh, I do too. I'll roll down my window and like say, "You look amazing."
Yes.
To somebody like waiting at the light, I'm like, "You look amazing."
Yes.
I don't need a response. I just need you to hear that you look amazing and somebody is appreciating the effort you went to today.
I see you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's so great.
I do love the call out of like, if I'm interacting with strangers and there's like a great accessory or a pair of shoes or a shirt or whatever it is, like that I think has come from queer community for me of like, let me gift this out into the world because it means that I'm showing up in a way that feels way better to me. And like it creates a little bit of that reciprocity as I like, especially as I exist less and less in queer spaces.
Yeah. Oh my God,
and I
I know.
do think that like, one thing I have noticed is I have transitioned into a more normative gender expression, not an as over the top femme expression, is I get way less of like, oh my gosh, your hair looks amazing. And it is tricky, you know, because especially as you're like aging and dealing with that, you're like, have I lost my essence? Like, where has it gone?
No, there's just like the same amount of hours in the day, but now like I think about, you're a great example. Like you have a serious partnership, you cohabitate with your partner, you have a child, you have a big job, like you do this podcast. I mean, I think sometimes to myself, like, how the fuck does Sarah do everything she does?
Right.
I have no idea. Cause I think we have the same amount of hours in the day. And I think I'm probably like curled up in a ball crying more than she is.
Yes, right? Same. Same.
Yeah. So I definitely identify with like not feeling like I'm putting all, I look at some of my outfits in my closet. Sometimes I'm like, I'm really sorry, you guys. I promise I'm going to be back. It's just like, we're going through some stuff right now.
And I think that's important. We go through phases with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Like I without a doubt know that Sarah's going to have another like Lux era.
No, it's going to
Totally.
get fabulous again.
Yeah.
I just think it might be about 9 years from now. Like, or
I'm gonna give
maybe
it
like
5.
I was like,
12
that's a long
years
time, girl.
from now. I don't know.
I think it's coming up.
I think like the child might have to be in
I think it's
college.
really interesting what you said too. Like the thing about like not existing in queer spaces as much.
Yeah.
Like I don't have the stamina to do what I used to do. Like finish work on Friday at
Right.
10 o'clock, run home, eat food, shower, change my clothing, and then go to 4 or 5 stops before I end at the stop that is like where I'm going to stop until 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
No.
If I did that now, I would be dead.
Yes.
You'd have to like carry my little dead body out of the last space and plant it with a tree somewhere. I don't know. I just don't have the stamina to maintain that. It's actually been a point of contention, I think, in some of my relationships, that I don't have the stamina to go out or to show up as much as I used to. I know that it has created issues.
Yeah.
So I just don't have the stamina.
It's just same. It's I mean, you know, getting older and stuff. It's just like the other night I was out at karaoke, and by the time I was like, I'm gonna wait until the last song that I put in there, but it went past my bedtime, and then the performance that I gave, I was like, whoa, I don't function. It's not only do I not want to stay up, I don't function. My first performance was amazing. Second one, okay. The third one, I was like, I should have gone home. Like what? So now I know.
Yes.
Now
No
I'm also like,
boundaries.
I can't go to karaoke on Wednesday.
Right.
Like I won't be able to go to work on Thursday.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's a bummer, but I don't have the same stamina that I used to for socializing. I think some of that is a byproduct of the lockdown too, spending so much time alone.
Yes.
After so many years being so extremely extroverted. And also I think the requisite like introspection that came with that and like not drinking anymore, especially not drinking during the week. Like also like a little glass of wine or a margarita or something, but I don't drink like I used to. And as I'm aging, I'm like, oh, that made all of that possible. The drinking made all that possible. Because otherwise I would have just been like, my feet hurt and I'm tired and I actually would like to go home and hang out with my chihuahua.
Why is it so loud?
Yeah. But now I'm like, I can't hear. I gotta go. My nerves. I feel so fragile.
Hilarious.
Okay, I'm curious about, you said a minute ago, and I want to clarify. We were talking about the salon space.
Yeah.
And like the judgment generally that comes from our like dominant culture towards women. Do you feel like the salon space is a little bit of a reprieve from that? Or do you think it's reinforced in the salon?
Well, I think mine is a reprieve.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I host a particular type of, I don't do body talk. If I have a client that comes in who say has lost a ton of weight, when she walks in, I'm not like, girl, you're skinny. Like, oh my God, I don't do any of that. I'm like, how's it going? How are you doing? The last 5 years have shown me that so many of my friends have been sick with fucking cancer and have lost weight because they have fucking cancer. So if somebody that I haven't seen, I have a client that comes in like once or twice a year and I haven't seen them and they roll in and they've clearly lost a significant amount of weight. I'm not going to greet them with like, you look hella good, girl. Because also I don't use skinny as the rubric for looking hella good.
Right.
I also don't do what we're not eating in my salon. That
Right.
conversation is not allowed. And I don't say, you're not allowed to talk about that. I just gently guide the conversation away from that. So I don't do any kind of like body shamey, food control-y, any of that kind of stuff. I also don't let people say mean things about themselves. If somebody starts going off and like really tearing themselves down, I'm like, okay, now you have to say something nice.
Yeah.
Tell me something great about you. Because we are both pieces, right? Like I could sit there and like be hard on myself too and like
Right.
get into that with them. But like what I would feel like at the end of the week
Right.
would be suicidal.
Yeah.
And I have my own history of eating disorder and my own feelings and my own baggage and all this shit. So to get into that with people all day long and then all week long. So there's some stuff that's just like not allowed.
Yeah.
And beyond like gossiping about housewives, that's like the only kind of like, I'm going to categorize it as mean girl combos. I don't really like to do that personally. And I have a lot of overlap too. So I have a lot of people that know each other and I often will hear stories about, they don't necessarily know that somebody comes to me. So I'll hear things about people. So to like be very careful and to take care
Right.
about how people are speaking in a space. And if I'm friends with somebody, I've put the kibosh on conversation before. I'm like, I'm going to stop you. I'm actually friends with that person. I'm not comfortable having this conversation. Let's just talk about something else.
Yeah.
Simple.
I have really mixed feelings about the salon space, not because I've personally had any uncomfortable, I mean, I guess probably in like my early 20s,
Yeah.
you know, going to like fucking Beverly Hills or Santa
Yeah.
Monica to get my hair done. But my uncle was my gay
Yes.
uncle was a hairstylist and he didn't stay with us long enough for me to really ask him about the experience of being a gay hairstylist in Texas.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Oh my God. So much Aquanet.
Well, yeah.
Am I right?
Actually,
Yeah,
you
probably
know,
Sebastian.
yeah, the toxic chemicals in
Yeah.
the work environment, I
Yeah.
think were really like deteriorated his health.
Absolutely, yeah.
But he had very different salon experiences, having been in like a big city in Dallas and doing that for much of his career. And then he moved back to Waco when my grandmother really needed care because he was the one, right, who wasn't caught up with kids and being in that. And so I've been in a lot of different salon environments with him and had such amazing experiences having a stylist as a family member. 'Cause, you know, he's like, when I was in 6th grade or whatever, he came and he visited us and he waxed my leg. I hadn't shaved yet. And he like waxed my legs
Oh my
for the
God.
first
That's so
time.
cool.
And was like,
I would
let's,
have loved that.
you know, and like he put highlights in my hair
Yes.
when I was pretty young and he was the one perming my hair. And so like I have so many positive associations with like getting dolled up.
Yeah.
But then I also think about his, like it was a social space, especially in a place like Texas, where there is this kind of mentality around like, we know you're gay, but we don't want you to talk about
Yeah.
it.
Right.
But this is a place where we feel comfortable you being a gay person existing
Yeah.
because we do trust that you've probably got some style and you can take care of our femininity and it's like fun to chat with you and that sort of thing. So I just think of that kind of like push and pull where it is like, can simultaneously be this like really kind of juicy, safe space.
Yeah.
But it can also be a space that really reinforces
Yeah.
gender norms
Absolutely.
and like comp het.
I mean,
and
it's like a
all
type of
that.
tokenism.
Yes.
Especially with like really like salon, like well-known, like famous salons in very wealthy areas, right? Like you have like this cadre of gay men who are very beautiful, very skilled at what they do. You have all these celebrities or very wealthy women, and it's fine that you're gay, but like we own you.
Probably also
Right.
this is the only gay friend that we have.
Very likely.
Yeah.
And depending on how famous of a hairstylist you are, you're probably not getting invited to anything. It's like you can come along as the help, but you're not like really our friend. So like friendship doesn't really develop in a real way for the most part. I'm sure there's the exception to every single
Right.
rule, but I think especially for gay men. And I see it now, like I see like young stylists that are very into like pandering to celebrity culture, that want to become like extensions artists or whatever, and like what they do to themselves and their bodies and their hair and the way they play the game to be accepted by that group of women, that particular, very particular group of women. It's just a different kind of trade.
Also, like really starting to deconstruct codependence
Yeah.
through this
Yes.
work has been really de-shaming for me, because I'm someone who is aware of the fact that I am on the codependent side. Like that is the more what I'm conditioned towards in relationships.
Sure.
And realizing that along with all of these other things that we can say about our society, that we've like been socialized in a white supremacist, patriarchal, Christian, capitalist, codependent
Yes. 100%.
society
Yep.
where other people's comfort is more important than our own.
Yep.
And that also like white supremacy, patriarchy, capitalism, all of these things are held together by
Yep.
codependent
Absolutely.
tendencies
Absolutely.
that are really about making sure that you don't rock the boat.
Yep.
That
Control.
discomfort is ultimately the thing you're trying to avoid.
Yeah.
And that's been really an interesting exploration to go on. And I also just think that for people who, or at least for anyone who is like me, who feels shame around, like I bring more codependent dynamics into my relationship than Andrea does. And I feel bad about that. Like, I don't like that is kind of where I, lean towards. Like, I'm definitely the one that's more like, oh no, but the common good is more what's important than like our individual well-being within this. And it's like, oh.
Do you think that you
But all
always did
things-
that? Do you think that you always did that?
In
Was
my
that always
relationships?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's like a deep fear of abandonment.
Sure, yeah.
So that the worst thing that could possibly happen is someone leaving me.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah.
Like that is a very
sure.
unsafe space for
Yeah.
me to be in. So then a lot of my actions within relationships are about keeping the unit together at whatever cost, and then as a result, I'm the one that like reaches the breaking point,
moms are
and
always
then
the one who
is
suffer.
the villain.
Yeah.
Right. Like I have been the villain. Like I don't deny that. But
Oh yeah. I mean, how dare you ever leave?
Right?
How dare you ever pull the plug
Yep.
on something that's working for everybody else? But I mean, it's okay with everybody if you feel like you're going to die.
Right. It's like,
I don't understand that mentality.
You need
I
more
think,
gratitude.
especially if you want to stand there and look at somebody and say, "But I love you."
right.
Okay, well, if you love me, what you're saying is like it's okay with you that I'm like in pain and dying.
Right.
My spirit is literally dying. You're okay with that. That's what love means to you.
Right. Yep.
That's
Because it's actually
twisted.
about their comfort.
Yeah.
And
You
their
don't
sense
want
of
things
safety.
disrupted.
Yeah.
And it is
Yeah.
that thing, it's like in order to heal from like the codependency or all of these intergenerational things that we've been taught, is like you actually have to face that you may be abandoned by the person. So the worst
Absolutely.
fear of the situation is the thing you actually have to like face the dragon
Yeah.
to get past it.
Well, and we have to ask ourselves, have I gone through this before?
Right.
I have. I've been
Yes.
left. I actually
Yes.
have been left.
Yes.
I've been left in a relationship that was continuing. I was in a relationship who already had left
Right.
emotionally, physically,
Yeah.
wasn't present, where we were still together.
Right.
So the worst thing that could happen had already happened.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I think also there's a layer underneath that where we abandon ourselves.
Sure.
So like when you're acting from a codependent tendency, you've already abandoned yourself. And so the work that you have to do is actually really to like sit with that willingness to abandon your needs and in service of what?
Right.
Anything other than being abandoned.
Well, you have to save yourself. Like that's
Yeah.
what's really disappointing
Yes.
is like, cause I think part of codependency also is thinking that there is this perfect relationship out there that's going to give you the love that you were missing and that you'll feel safe and you won't ever get abandoned.
Forever and always.
Ever.
It's not real.
Our
It doesn't
Barbie
exist.
house.
Yeah. I wish. I wish for the Barbie condo and the Barbie Corvette.
Sparrow's
Dallas
like,
the horse.
I will take the Barbie house.
Yes.
All the Barbie closet.
I'll get the Barbie house in the divorce. That's what's happening.
I mean,
You don't want that pink house. Yeah, sorry.
I wouldn't be mad about the pink house.
Is lesbian processing the way out? Like, what is because I do feel like a couple of things you were describing earlier in terms of how you hold space in your studio. It does feel pretty like lesbian processy.
I think, well, my dad passed away pretty young, so I was still really young, and it was me and my mom, my two sisters. So I joke, I grew up in the maxi pad. I like became an adult with my mom is not an older mom. She's a very young mom. So I very luckily got to be go through a trauma with with a mom who sought support for herself. And then by the nature of that was like, here's how you can support yourself, and stayed really connected. And so like the lesbian processing started before I even knew the word lesbian really. Like it was just like having access to a parent who was really present that way. And then to be able to help, or I would say assist my mom in growing up my other two sisters in whatever way I could, which
You're the oldest.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I failed a lot with my middle sister because her trauma played out in her way, and it scared me. And so I couldn't say, I'm scared I might lose you. I would like pelt her with like really lame, like kind of mom vibes of like, do you know what you're doing to your brain? Or do you know what you're doing you know what this is going to do to this family if something happens to you? I couldn't just say I love you and I'm scared that you're going to harm yourself and I'm going to lose you too. And my baby sister, there's such a huge gap there that like, not only did I get to be a mom figure to her, like her second mom, but then she became a teenager and I had to go through the uncomfortable of like, she doesn't like me very much because she's a teenager.
Yeah.
And then it's like, then she's a young woman and she wants to leave home and you don't see her all the time. And then how I talk to her has had to morph into like, we're two adult women now. I have to relate to her as a woman and not as a parental figure with her. And so this like constant processing in my own family just really laid the groundwork for a very particular type of connecting. And my comfort has always been more with women, female identified people, than with men. So I think it's by a very natural extension that it sort of plays that way in my studio too. It's like, I don't mean this like I don't care, but like I am unbothered if somebody comes in crying. I'm not distressed. I'm distressed for them. I care that someone's upset, and I'm also incredibly grateful that that's a place they can walk into and immediately just, they know that they're safe to release. Because I can pretty much guarantee a lot of the people that come in and do that in my studio don't do this at home with their partner.
Right.
They're not having these conversations with their girlfriends. I think even in queer circles, there's like a lot of self-protective stuff amongst girlfriends.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's like very natural. It sort of happens. We are very in each other's lives. So.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm grateful. Very grateful.
Sweet.
Yeah.
If someone wants to find you, come to your studio.
Yes.
Be in your sphere. How can they do that?
My Instagram is at sfoxhair, and I have a website, sparrowfox.com. All the info's on there. Those are the two best places. I go on TikTok to observe, but I'm not on TikTok. It's too hard. It's too hard. And I'm having to like step up my game with the Instagram stuff with the Amika education now. So
Ooh,
I'm
so
having
your
to-
Instagram's going to be popping off?
I mean, I don't listen, don't pressure me, but like I'm going to try and put more effort into it and like try to do some education. I bought a few little gadgets to help me like do styling at home so I can like show people how products are used or tools. So I did my first little video edit thing for a class I had to submit to them, and it was really hard for me to do. So having to stare at clips of myself, my giant head, and like just like, it's just like you just feel like it's like a moon face floating after a while.
Yeah.
So
when we first started this, I legit had times where like I threw the headphones, where I was like,
oh yeah,
just could not listen to my voice anymore.
oh yeah.
But it really helped me realize how much like disgust I had for myself. I was like, ooh, this is deep. It was part of my self-esteem healing journey, but I was like, and now I do enjoy listening to myself.
Well, I'm glad you stuck with
I
it.
think the on-camera thing is like
It's hard.
hard in a different way.
We just need the little lifts.
I know. I need some threads.
I did look up that tape where I'm
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah. Like
pull
old
it up.
school. It's like an episode of Columbo. Everybody's got their face taped.
You know?
you could just do that. Wear some wigs.
Yeah. Oh, well, as expected, an episode about queer style and hair. It was way deeper than
so
that.
deep. I got misty multiple times.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
want to mess with my makeup.
It's important, It's not just really about how we present ourselves, but it's how we feel about ourselves and how we feel when we're together. And
Yeah. And sometimes
It's like my
scheduling an
favorite
extra
thing.
20 minutes
Oh.
ahead of the appointment just to
Yeah.
allow for a breakdown.
yeah, literally, yeah.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to Fiercely Independent Media. Fuck Yeah Podcast is hosted, edited, and produced by Robin Jennings and Sarah Tom Chesson, also known as my mom. Theme music by Suno AI. Your support means a lot. You can give to the show and receive perks at patreon.com/fuckyeahpod. You can also rate and review the show or share it with a friend. You can reach us at fyeahpod@gmail.com. Bye for now.